general family viewing.
Hi friends, I hope you are all fine. Welcome to our class today. Today we have such an amazing lesson lined up for us, and our lesson is Science Class 8, and the topic is food and nutrition. Under it we shall look at food poisoning. My name is Teacher LIHASI James from Kyoto School, Kasuku campus. Now friends, acquiring knowledge, desirable skills, and having a right attitude is a process, and I challenge you to continuously learn good things and learn negative thoughts and relearn again. That is the process of learning. So today we have such an interesting topic, and our topic is food and nutrition. Under it we shall look at food poisoning. But before we get deep into our lesson today, there is what you call a prerequisite knowledge that you should have on your fingertips as far as science is concerned. And this is about around 4 things. Number 1, we ask ourselves, what is food? What is food? From the Oxford Dictionary, basically we define food as a substance, a nutritious substance that we consume. Not to consume means to either eat or you drink. So these substances, we consume them in order to remain healthy, in order to have life and to grow. When we talk of nutritious substances, then this in class 5, they are mainly classified into 3. We have the bodybuilding foods, which call proteins. We have vitamins, protective foods, and we have carbohydrates, energy giving foods. So those are under what you call the nutrients. So these nutrients are the ones that we absorb in our body, and they are very helpful. Having understood what food is, the substances in it, then it's okay if we look at the meaning of the word nutrition. So the process of providing the body with the required necessary nutrients is what you call nutrition. In our syllabus, we also have the word nutritionist. So you get nutritionist. So nutritionist basically is the person who now will comment on how which nutrients are needed in your body. And remember, in class 8 we have special people who need special diet. Having talked about food, nutrients, nutrition, and nutritionist, we'll go deeper into our lesson. Please note, these are some of the words that you'll hear me pronounce as we proceed on with our lesson. Talking of food poisoning, and we have the process of giving food, required nutrients in your body, then there's something that is very paramount, and what you call a balanced diet. Balanced diet. We are advised to make sure that every time we sit down to take a meal, the meal should be balanced. And the balanced diet comes from the nutrients, the bodybuilding, the energy giving, and the protective foods that we talked about. Now, when we talk of food poisoning as our subtopic today, we are looking at 2 words, the food that we had defined, and poisoning, the process. So something poisonous, basically it means something harmful. And like our nutrients, that were helpful, then this one is harmful. Now, what is food poisoning? We define food poisoning as an illness. Some books will talk of sickness. Illness or sickness. Now, this one is as a result of harmful substances found in the food. As we consume food, there might be some harmful substances in it that will cause illness in us. Remember, our three main objectives, as I stated earlier, are: number one, we're able to define some of these terms that are listed here as far as food poisoning is concerned. Number two, you will be able to acquire some skills, like as simple as the good hygienic skills that we should acquire as far as handling of food is concerned. Then having the knowledge, having the desired skills, then definitely we'll have the right attitude, and that will help us to avoid or avert some of these challenges. So food poisoning, illness, sickness, and it's a result of harmful substances found in the food that we consume. Now, our syllabus advises us to get to know the agents of poisoning. How does this happen? So, we look at agents of food poisoning. So as per the syllabus, we look at two main agents of food poisoning. And the first one, we have what you call chemicals. Now, I know you're wondering, what are chemicals doing at home? And I'm here to let you know that some of the chemicals that are commonly used at home can cause food poisoning if they are handled carelessly, especially where food is concerned. So we list a few of them. So some of these chemicals found at home, we shall list a few. Number one, we have insecticides. So insecticides, we all know that are chemicals used to kill insects at home. So these insecticides, if they find their way where the food is, then definitely that food, if consumed, will be poisonous and can lead to food poisoning. And remember, we said food poisoning basically is the illness or sickness that is harmful to our body when we consume food that has been contaminated. Number two, example of chemicals, we talk to pesticides. While insecticides are chemicals used to deal with insects, then pesticides, from the word pesticides, you get the word pests. So these are basically chemicals that are used to control pests. So these are some of the chemicals that are found at home. Let's keep on going. Number three, we shall have herbicides. Herbicides are also some of the chemicals that are used at home, found at home, that when they find their way to on food, and then we consume that food, and then that can lead to food poisoning. Soaps are some of other chemicals that we have at home. Detergents. Come to think of it, boys and girls, when you go for shopping and you've shopped foodstuffs and you also shopped some of these chemicals for the purposes that I've listed, you will realize that when they're helping you to pack, they'll deliberately make sure that they pack foodstuff differently from these chemicals. This basically is just to avoid the fact that if they find their way to the food that we consume, then definitely they'll lead to food poisoning. On the same note, we have things like pains, also some of the chemicals found at home, and if they find their way into the food, then definitely we shall experience food poisoning. We also have kerosene. Some books will refer to it as paraffin. Basically, these are some of the chemicals found at home. Now, these, basically, if you look at them, they're artificial. But there are instances, boys and girls, where you find that naturally there are some toxins that are produced naturally in the food that can lead to food poisoning. So, we shall look at some of them, and we look at, for instance, if grains, in this case let's use maize, is stored in a damp place, and maybe it was not completely dried, then after some time you'll able to, if you observe it, you'll see some bluish color in it. Okay, that is naturally that is an example where naturally the grains has produced some toxins that can lead to food poisoning. So we talked of grains. There is a term that is used rarely, but you can find it, especially when you're looking at the final exams, that is the KCP. The term is aflatoxin. Rarely, but they can throw in that term. Now, this basically as a result of grains and especially maize having kind of moldy aspect, and definitely that is a natural occurrence. So it has naturally released that if that is consumed, then definitely we will have the issue of food poisoning. Secondly, you've heard of maybe in news announcing that certain part of world ate a certain tuber, for example cassava, and some of the parts, they are highly poisonous. So some tubers, especially what I've had, cassava, definitely they have naturally toxins that can be poisonous if consumed. We shall look at later on issues of what are some of the symptoms that you can observe so that you can ascertain if the food is poisonous or someone is suffering from food poisoning. Boys and girls, remember our topic is about food and nutrition, and our subtopic is food poisoning. We've defined what food is, nutritious substances that we consume. Consume in this case means we eat or we drink that are harmful. Keyword, harmful. Number two, we talked of agents of food poisoning. We just looked at one, some of the chemicals that are commonly found at home. The word is commonly found at home. So we talked of insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, soaps, detergents, paints, kerosene, and paraffin. We've gone ahead and said that when these are artificial, some are natural. So the natural chemicals, the toxins, we listed instances like grains not well stored, maybe damp, maybe not completely dried before storing. Then they lead to that word that we used there, aflatoxin. For example, maize, we talked of some tubers. In this case, we used cassava tubers. Some parts are highly poisonous. The third one, I know you've heard of people complaining of stomachache, bloating. It can even go to vomiting after eating beans. Basically, the remedy will be if you want to boil beans tomorrow, you are advised to soak it overnight. Then that water that you've soaked in, you remove, and when you're boiling, you boil with fresh, clean water. That will help to minimize some complaints that you'll have after you've eaten beans. You name them, such as stomach aches, we talk of bloating, vomiting, and so forth. The fourth thing is, if you've observed keenly sweet potato, yes, no, Irish potatoes. If you observe Irish potatoes, the Irish potatoes, sometimes the Irish potatoes, if not well stored, they will sprout. The word that I'm using here is sprout. And you'll find some green things growing, or parts of the potatoes. Now, you are not supposed to take that, because that is a recipe for food poisoning. So if you happen to store your Irish potatoes in particular, and you find that some parts that are sprouting and then green in color, the remedy, if you need to take it, then make sure you completely cut it off. But my advice will be avoid, because that will be a good recipe for food poisoning. So we've talked of chemicals, artificial and the natural toxins that are produced from different foods that we consume. I told you that we have two agents. So number one, talked of chemicals. How about number two? We talk of microorganisms. Microorganisms. From the word micro, I'm sure something like microscopic rings on your mind, which these are tiny organisms. Basically, we talk of such as bacteria that get into the alimentary canal. When we talk about alimentary canal, your brains goes back to grade 5. We talked of, actually that's the beginning of human systems, body systems. And we talked of the alimentary canal, the track all the way from the mouth to the anus. So if that is invested with microorganisms, then definitely, like bacteria, then definitely you'll have cases or scenario of having consumed poisonous food that will lead to food poisoning. So how do they get into the alimentary canal? Definitely through contaminated food that has been exposed to these harmful agents, and if it is consumed, definitely they have the ability to multiply, and when they multiply, they will produce toxins that will cause abdominal pains. Number two, we've talked of some protein foods, and like meat pies. So if meat pies or other things like ice creams, if are not well stored, then they provide a conducive environment, a favorable environment. Those words can be used interchangeably as far as our subtopic is concerned. They can make a favorable, conducive environment for bacteria to grow and multiply. Please note, if they grow and they multiply and it is happening in your digestive tract, then definitely will have some repercussions that are not good. Similarly, under the microorganisms, if food, for example, is not stored, let's just use a piece of bread. If not well stored, then definitely you realize that there are some molds. We talk of molds growing on it. Your brains go back to grade 5 under classification of plants. So molds will be under non-green plants, what you call fungus. So they grow. Definitely if you consume that bread, then you'll be a candidate of food poisoning. Boys and girls, having talked of food poisoning as our subtopic, talked of chemicals and microorganisms are agents of food poisoners. Food poisoning, how will you know that someone is suffering from food poisoning. Now we talked of signs and symptoms. Some books will use those two words interchangeably, but I'm here to clarify that symptoms basically are feelings, sensations. That's why when you go to a doctor, you will say, doctor will ask you, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling fever, such kind of things. Those are basically the symptoms that we're going to look at as far as food poisoning is concerned. And we have signs. Signs, basically, boys and girls, they are observable characteristics. So for us here, we shall work with symptoms. So let's talk about symptoms of food poisoning. Symptoms of food poisoning. Now, the following are basic symptoms of food poisoning that we can look at. Number one, we'll talk of vomiting. And this vomiting is not just normal, I'm going to put in bracket, in quotes, not normal, we talk of violent. And you know, when it is violent, then your body is losing water, what we call dehydration. So if it happens, then you need to seek immediate medical attention. Number two, we have severe stomachache. Severe stomachache is a second symptom of food poisoning, where you feel intense pain, acute pain in your abdominals. Number three, we can have diarrhea. As the third symptom of food poisoning. Remember, boys and girls, I've said symptoms are feelings or sensations that a person will experience when he or she is undergoing different thing, in this case, food poisoning. We also have fever. Number five, we can also talk of feeling weak. Check the spelling of weak. And dizziness. Those are some of the symptoms that one may show while he or she is experiencing food poisoning. Now, having talked of food poisoning as our subtopic, having talked of food and nutrition as under food and nutrition, and we talked of agents of food poisoning, whereby we mentioned chemicals and we also mentioned microorganisms, and we talked of now symptoms, the sensations that one may feel when he or she is experiencing food poisoning. Is a good thing for us to talk of ways of preventing food poisoning. At this particular point in time, people indulge in eating healthy. So we have to be hands-on to ensure that we prevent cases or instances of food poisoning. Basically, boys and girls, we're going to look at the unhygienic practices of handling food that can lead to food contamination and hence food poisoning. And up there we talked of favorable conducive conditions for growth of microorganisms, and we're looking at warmth, dirt, moisture, and definitely darkness. So we shall focus mainly on the positive or the good food hygienic practices. So if we capture the good food hygienic practices, then definitely we will live or consume food that is free from the agents of food poisoning. So let's talk about food hygienic practices. Food hygienic practices. And number one, we should store food properly under right conditions. Storing of food properly under right conditions. So I pick the word right conditions as far as food storage is concerned. So remember up there we talked of favorable, conducive environment or conditions where bacteria can grow, that is warmth, dirt, moisture, darkness. So if we avoid that, then we will have stored the food under right conditions. Number two, when you go to purchase food, make sure that you purchase food from clean stores, whether stores, whether kiosks, whether food vendors, marketplaces. Make sure that place is clean, right? Then once you buy it, then the good thing to do is to also ensure that you are buying fresh products, especially, boys and girls, especially when you talk of fruits and vegetables. Make sure they are fresh. Someone may ask me, but I need to buy, for instance, mangoes, but they're not in season. So it's advised, if you're getting fruits especially, get a fruit that is in season. Because the one that's out of season, then if not well stored, that definitely will lead to food poisoning. Another very important thing is checking the expiry date. How many of us here get to a supermarket, or how many of us here get to a supermarket and before they buy any product, especially these fast foods, for instance, how many of us just check the expiry date? Remember, even if you, especially the canned food, make sure you check the expiry date. If you happen to buy a canned meat, for instance, and it's expired, even if you put all the spices in the world, they still lead to food poisoning because it has already expired. So check expiry date while purchasing food. We talked of when you purchase, maybe you're in a supermarket or a store or a mall or somewhere, you'll see people make those guys helping you to sort, that's the word, the food from chemicals. Same thing when you reach home, ensure that chemicals are stored away. Chemicals are stored away from foods. And if you talk of chemicals, boys and girls, then your mind goes back to the list of chemicals that we listed here, including pesticides, herbicides, we talked of soaps, detergents. So we make sure that they're stored differently, separately from foods, and that will help us to avoid contaminating food. Next, we've talked of washing fruits and vegetables, especially those that are eaten raw. Raw foods. Before you consume, and this word consume, remember I've told you is to eat or to drink. In this case, we're talking of raw foods. Foods that are eaten without preparation in terms of cooking. Make sure, boys and girls, they are thoroughly. The key word here is thoroughly. Thoroughly means you wash with running water, okay, before you consume. That will have helped to avoid microorganisms that are on it to affect your alimentary canal or your digestive system. Where we store food, as number 7, where we store food, we are now dealing with right conditions. So where we store food, make sure it is dry, make sure we have enough air circulation, because if not, remember we talked of the word that I used, aflatoxin, remember? Yes, remember we talked of that. So make sure it is dry, it's clean, air circulation as well, to avoid food going bad in our stores. Next, there's sometimes you cook food and is not consumed. Everything is not consumed. So food leftovers, boys and girls, food leftovers. So food leftover must be well stored, but before that, ensure that it has cooled completely before you store it. And definitely, when you're storing, then you think of a refrigerator, or yeah, let's use a refrigerator. Now, do you know, boys and girls, that you should know what should come on which shelf inside a refrigerator, so that you avoid contamination inside the refrigerator. So we said food leftovers should be cooled completely before storage. And if you need now to consume it, then number 9, you should properly, keyword, reheat. Properly reheat. Remember, where there is, when we heat it properly, then the microorganisms, the bacteria, can't survive. But if you haphazardly reheat it, then you will be exposing yourself to food poisoning. How about those foods that are in our freezer? So if you need to prepare them, number 10, boys and girls, then the key word is thaw. Make sure that you thaw them thoroughly before you use them. Thaw them thoroughly before we use them. Now, in the process of preparing food in the kitchen, as number 11, then you have some books will say kitchen refuse, some books will say kitchen waste, like peels and so on. When you're preparing food, ensure that the kitchen refuse, kitchen waste are away from foods. They are away. For example, the peels. You peeled a tomato, or you're using onions and so on. Make sure the peels are definitely far away from the food that you're preparing, and that will help us to avoid the issue of food poisoning. So, boys and girls, some of these things are things that are practical, hands-on, that you can help or do at home, especially this time. Now, having all this knowledge compounded by the good attitude, the right attitude to do the right thing, just because you're hungry doesn't mean you do not wash your fruits and veggies, especially those consumed raw, hurriedly. You should make sure that that is done well, and the word that you used is thoroughly. So I encourage you that as you consume this food at home, make sure you've practiced some of these good hygienic practices as far as food is concerned. Remember, we were talking about food and nutrition. It's a class 8 topic, science class 8 topic, and under it we talked about food poisoning. We said food poisoning is poisoning is definitely an illness. Food poisoning is definitely an illness or sickness that is acted as a result of consuming harmful substances that are found in food. Then we talked of agents of food poisoning, boys and girls. We talked of 2. We talked of chemicals, and we talked of microorganisms. The chemicals basically are things that are commonly used, chemicals commonly used at home: insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, soaps, detergents. And we said that sometimes naturally, they can occur naturally. The toxins can occur naturally. And we've looked at 3 main things. We talked of maize that is not well dried or placed in a dumpy place, that will have aflatoxin. We talked of some tubers, for example cassava, that will definitely have some parts of it are highly poisonous. We also talked of moldy fruits, green or sprouting parts of potatoes, especially the Irish potatoes. Completely cut them out. We had also a remedy for bloating, stomachache, and even vomiting when one consumes beans, and we said you should soak it overnight and then drain away that water and boil it with fresh water. From there, we talked of microorganisms also causing food poisoning that are taken into the body through consuming food that is poisonous, and attack the alimentary canal, they multiply, and they can lead to abdominal pains. And we talked of symptoms of food poisoning. We listed a few. We talked of violent vomiting, and I remember insisting on the issue of dehydration. So this is one of the ways where our body loses water, and you know how important water is in our body. Stomach aches, severe stomach aches. We also talked of diarrhea, fever, feeling weak, and dizziness. So if this happens, then the first thing is seek medical attention as fast as possible. Then we also talked of ways of preventing food poisoning, and we talked of basically the positive good food hygiene practices, all the way from the storage. Make sure they're stored under right conditions. When you're purchasing, make sure where you purchase it from, the stores, the kiosks, the food vendors, is clean. Then purchase fresh fruits and vegetables, and if possible, go for fruits that are in season. We talked of expiry date. From now henceforth, I want every girl and boy who's listening and watching that every time you get to a place that you need to buy, make sure you check the expiry date. The chemicals I talked about, make sure they're stored differently from foodstuffs. Foods eaten raw, the key word was thoroughly wash them with running water. Properly reheat any leftover before you consume it, and if you're storing any leftover, make sure it is completely cooled before you store. And we talked of frozen foods that should thaw before you consume. Now, boys and girls, this topic and the subtopic under it is very important in our day-to-day lives. So I'm posing a challenge to you. As we proceed on with our sessions, I need you to discuss various food hygiene practices that will help to guard against food poisoning at home. Apart from this, what are other ways, what are other good food hygienic practices that you can use, that you can customize in your place to avoid food poisoning? Now, some of the questions that can be asked in an exam setup, and I'll draw your attention to the just concluded KCP, question 2021, question 2022, question 33. There was a question on bodybuilding foods. Remember when I was starting the topic, we talked of foods, and we talked of nutrients, and we mentioned three: the bodybuilding. We also mentioned the energy giving and the protective. So there's a question on the same on the bodybuilding. So they were looking for protein. We also, from this topic, to just show the essence of us learning, the rationale as why we should learn this, apart from practicing at home, we also expect questions on the same. And question 35 of just concluded KCP 2022 was about, under this, about lactating mothers, what they should eat and how they should eat. So you can see the essence, the rationale, the reason as to why we learn these very vital topics and subtopics in our day-to-day life. Now, to wind up the lesson, we have discussed about three main things. We have defined what food poisoning is. and we talked of illness or sickness resulted of consuming harmful substances, and we've talked of eating or drinking. And this one from food, we have mentioned the importance or the agents of food poisoning, chemicals and microorganisms. We have also mentioned symptoms of food poisoning, and I've said clearly that symptoms are feelings, are sensations, and they're different from signs, because signs are observable characteristics, all the way from violent diarrhea, severe stomachache, vomiting, fever, feeling weak and dizzy. And we've talked of the food hygienic practices that we should practice. So as we wind up our session today, please take note of the keywords that I have mentioned. The keywords that I have mentioned. I have mentioned keywords like food, nutritious, nutrients, nutrition, nutritionist, illness, sickness, agents, and microorganisms, and hygienic practices. So these are words that I used in setting of our exam. And on that note, boys and girls, our lesson comes to the end. I wish you a good afternoon. Thank you.
Sell the hotel without me? You're dreaming, Geoffrey.
So, Chantal, I'm assuming that you have a better idea.
Yes, we agreed to wait for the marriage of Nambi and Ziwa before making any decision.
Listen, I have had enough of waiting for that girl. I am sending her away immediately to become a nun.
And what a saintly role model you are, Geoffrey, aren't you? Why is everyone forgetting that I'm the goddamn victim around here? Geoff left me.
Zahara, stop it this once. Your daughter is right. You cannot be seen to be the cause of this sleepover.
Can't believe Nambi's leaving. What am I going to do? Bro, it's a good time to take a break. But how could she do this to me, bro? It's not fair. Just wait till Nambi gets back and then you'll see. I can't do that. You have to do it. She's mad. I mean, just imagine if it was you.
Hii mesto ni tulipanda shamba na tukaweza kutoa mafuno ambayo ni mahindi. Sasa hivi mnaona hii ni mesto ambayo bado ni green, and we are taking this green mesto kusiaga. Kama unavyoona tunasiaga hii ni to make the silage. Sisi ni wakulima ambao tunafanya different kind of kilimo, lakini hasa tunafanya kilimo ya ng'ombe za maziwa. Kampuni ambayo inajiita Liberty Dairies Limited.
The Princess Hunter Contest is among the activities which take place during the annual Multicultural Festival held in Malindi, Kilifi County. This year's event, organized by Mseto Africa Limited, took place on 20th of April 2019 during the Easter holiday. The idea of having the Princess Hunter Contest was to spice up the festival, showcase the beauty of the Mijikenda attire, and also to bring back the recognition of the Mijikenda attire, which is at risk of being forgotten due to modern lifestyles.
Kwangu mimi ni kuona ya kwamba warembo zaidi wamekuja kukubali kwamba wao ni Wamijikenda na wako tayari kuvaa vazi letu, maana watu wengi hawalitambui tena. Tumeachia kabila zingine kama Wamasai wanajivunia lugha yao, maana hata pengine mimi naweza vaa hivi na watu wakasema mbona umevaa kama Wamasai. Sasa watu wametusahau.
The Multicultural Festival seeks to promote traditional cultures of the Mijikenda and consequently, among other things, conserve cultural heritage for sustainability for the current and future generations.
Utamaduni umekuwa ndani yangu na sikuwa nafurahia nikiona kwamba watu hawapendi sana kuzingatia mambo ya utamaduni. Ndipo nikasema mimi kama msichana wa Kimijikenda basi nitajitosa ulingoni nikaweze kuonyesha ulimwengu ya kwamba utamaduni una manufaa. Lakini sifuati zote, nafuata zile ambazo zinaleta maendeleo. Zile ambazo zimepitwa na wakati tunaziwacha kando.
Hawa wasichana wote wamevaa andola white kozi ni wasichana ambao hawajazaa. Ile ya red huwa inavaliwa na wamama wenye ambao wamezaa. Na ile ya blue inavaliwa na wamama wale waganga.
The selection of the contestants starts from the one level in Mijikenda communities of the Giriama, Chonyi, Rabai, Ribe, Kauma, Jibana, Kambe, Digo, and Duruma.
Ataweza kuendeleza zaidi, hata chukua naende nyumbani kulala.
Question 2 ni Esther Zawadi kutoka Burundi. Mshindi ni Esther Charo kutoka Burundi.
The Princess Hunter title holder is considered as the Mijikenda Cultural Woman Ambassador. She is expected to be involved in cultural activities, community development projects, educative campaigns, corporate branding, among other activities. Our culture, our pride.
Tunakula usiku tuachane na break kwanza tuende lunch. Chapo.
Rasha piga shada kuna giza zikinai tujinai siweke story kata maji pia shada liko nasio nikosa msupo si stress kama rende kisha basi nipe najua ni
Big up, ukiwa Adliva, big up, sis, big up, shows, mama, big up. Oya, wase wote. Okay, my principal, big up.
Maelfu na maelfu ya wahamiaji wakiwa na watoto kutoka nchi za Amerika ya Kati wanaendelea kuwasili kwenye mpaka kati ya Marekani na Mexico.
Folks, I'm going. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ni habari kutoka pembe zote duniani.
Pipopa si vuguvugu. Pipopa ni idea.
Sazidi ananyonya, hanyonyi vizuri, anakuwa hayuko comfortable.
Jeshi la Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo linapambana na waasi wa ADF.
Kwa sasa wanatoa wito kwa mashirika, makampuni na vilevile vituo vya uchukuzi.
Mambo mengi yatakwenda kama yalivyopangwa.
Hapa ni kuna mmoja wa viongozi wa chama cha wavuvi katika eneo hili.
Zaidi tunajaribu kuwapa chanjo ili ina boost ama inanyanyua kinga ya mwili, ndio inaenda kupelekea kupambana na virusi.
Ni duniani leo, Jumatatu mpaka Ijumaa, moja kwa moja kutoka VOA Swahili, Washington DC.
This program is rated GE. Content carried in here is suitable for general family viewing.
Good morning, learners. My name is Jennifer Karia. Welcome to today's lesson. And today we are going to learn Agriculture Form 4, the topic on livestock production. I'll be taking you through livestock production 6, that is cattle. Previously, during the lesson, there's a previous lesson that you had on the same, where you tackled cattle, the introduction to cattle rearing. You talked about how the calf is handled right from birth, how it is fed using colostrum, and all things that basically the things that we deal with when we are handling young livestock animals, that is the cattle, particularly the calves. Now, in today's lesson, we are going to be dealing with replacing, or rather rearing the replacement stock. Rearing of replacement stock, that is the young bulls and the heifers. Now, this topic generally will be tackling the replacement of rearing of the replacement stock. We'll also be tackling the types of calf pens that we have. We'll also be looking at the structural requirements of an ideal calf pen, and we'll also be looking at the management practices that we carry out on a calf. Now, the topic is livestock production 6. That is the cattle. This particular topic, I would like to give you a background on what exactly happens when you're dealing with this topic in terms of the KCSE, because these are candidate topic found in paper 2, and paper 2 basically deals with livestock production. So this is where you are likely to find questions on this particular topic. So welcome, learner, to this particular topic, and I hope you're going to be together throughout the lesson. So the lesson objectives, what you're going to learn today, owing to the fact that you're already introduced to the topic, we are going to continue, and we're going to look at the lesson objectives
whereby we look at what is a replacement stock. What do we mean when we talk of replacement stock? Replacement stock, these are animals that have been selected according to the Form 3 book, whatever we learned in Form 3. The animals that have been selected to replace the old stock. These animals, in this case, because we are dealing with cattle, we are referring to the heifers and the bulls. That is the young bulls. Of course, if I refer you back again to Form 3, we looked at the characteristics of the good replacement stock, and of course they should be young. That is where we are talking of the heifers, which are the young female cattle. We're also looking at the young bulls, which are the males that are meant to replace the old ones that are wearing out. You know, when animals become old, they become less productive, and therefore we need to replace them with younger animals, which we select with a lot of carefully. We select them carefully in order to enhance production in your farm. Now, another of our objectives that you're going to look at today are the types of calf pens. Now, why are we looking at the calf pens? Why are we so much focusing on the calf pens, dear Lana? This is because when you're talking of rearing, rearing is a very broad aspect of bringing up animals. When we rear animals, we are talking of a broad, it is like bringing up a young child. And therefore, rearing, one of the aspects of rearing cattle, you realize that it is good housing. A calf pen is where the calf is housed, where these heifers are housed. And therefore, we require these calf pens to be structured in such a way that they are going to promote productivity in your farm. So we need to look at the types of calf pens that we can use in our farms, and we have several of them. As we're going to proceed, we'll see them. And then our next objective, Lana, dear Lana, our next objective is, or are, the structural requirements. Structural requirements of an ideal calf pen. And I want to say, particularly in this case, this is an S equation. At Form 4 level, by now you're familiar, we have already said that this is a topic in paper 2, and you know, in paper 2 or in any paper in agriculture, we have sections A, B, and C. This bit of the structural requirements of an ideal calf pen is commonly tested in section C, which comprises of the S's. The S's, which can carry even up to 20 marks. So you can be sure that in this particular section, you are required to capture as many points as you can, so that you are able to scoop the highest score in your exam. Lastly, if time allows, we're also going to look at another rearing aspect of these young bulls and heifers, which you call the routine management practices. Routine management practices. That is, if time allows. Now, welcome to the lesson. And this is generally what we're going to tackle today. I am looking forward to a very interesting lesson, because we cannot shy away from agriculture. Remember, it is the backbone of our economy in Kenya. And it is a very interesting subject because it is very practical. We are looking forward to raising young citizens who are conversant with the skills that are necessary in this particular backbone in agriculture, in the economy of our country. So, as I begin, I am expecting also your feedback from the from various platforms, that is the social media platforms. At KUTV Kenya, you can tweet, you can Facebook, send your SMSs on the numbers that is on your screen. Kindly participate so that you're going to scoop the maximum content that you need in this particular bit. So welcome, dear learner, as you go through this bit that is very interesting. Now, I think already we have talked about the first bit, which is replacement of the old stock, which is called which is the replacement stock. I want to believe that that is very clear, because replacement stock, we have said, it is where you replace old animals that are wearing out. They have started becoming a bother in your farm. They have started producing little amount of milk. They are not economical to keep in your farm, dear learner. You need to replace that stock with a new version or new animals, young animals. That is the heifers and the bulls and young bulls. So when you're replacing those young bulls and heifers, you need to rear them in such a way that these bulls, you're going to rear them economically with minimal costs, but at the end of the day, you're going to achieve the highest amount of profit when you're rearing them. Now, because of that, we need to look at the types of calf pens that you can use in your farm. Types of calf pens. And the types of calf pens we have vary depending on, of course, the amount of money that you have in your pocket. It depends on the kind of area that you are living. If it is in a flooded area, you need to look for a particular type of calf pen that will suit that particular region. So generally we have two main types of calf pens, and the first type of calf pen is called the permanent calf pens. Permanent calf pens they are capital intensive, and therefore you require some heavy investment in terms of finances to finance the permanent, because it means they are going to last in your farm for a long time. So we have permanent calf pens. They require a huge amount of money compared to the second category of calf pens that we can use in our farms to rear our calves. I want to remind you, dear learner, that a calf pen is a house, or it is a farm structure that is used that is constructed in a farm to house, or rather to accommodate the calf, to protect it from bad weather, from excessive sunlight, to make sure that it is in a safe place where it cannot be stolen, to ensure that it is not affected by weather elements like the rain. So that is what a calf pen is. So we are saying we have two types of calf pens, the permanent one, and we have the mobile one. So you can construct a mobile calf pen or a permanent calf pen. Now, under the permanent calf pens, Under the permanent calf pens, again, we have two categories. And the first category is the one that involves concrete, or rather it has concrete floors. A permanent calf pen that has concrete floors, meaning that the floor has concrete, and this floor means that it is easy to clean, and you can clean it easily and drain the dung and the urine to ensure that the place is always clean. So we have the concrete floors. We also have another permanent calf pen, which has slated floors. Both of these calf pens, the one with the concrete and the one with slated floor, this one means that it is generally to ensure that there is proper drainage. The drainage is good because the slated floors have timber on the bottom. There is timber, and the timber on the floor, that is on the floor of the calf pen, is not in contact with each other. So they are divided by a gap. There's a gap between two timber pieces. So meaning that there's a gap, and of course the gap should not be very large to ensure that to prevent the legs of the calves and the calves from getting in there and injuring the animal. So there should be a slight gap between the two timber pieces to facilitate drainage. When there is urination, and the defecation, there is easy drainage through the spaces that have been left. So the slated floors means that there is a gap between the timbers. The timbers are not close together, so there is a gap between the two. The concrete one, of course, is where you mix the sand, the ballast, to come up with the final concrete, and then, of course, you put it on the floor as you construct the calf pen. So those are the permanent calf pens. They are two. We have said the concrete and the slated. Now the mobile calf pen, mobile, coming from the word mobility, or rather bringing the aspect of mobility. What is mobility? Mobility is that idea of movement. It means that you can move. You can move the calf pen from one place to the other. You can move it from one area to the next. Maybe you can move it today from a certain region, you move it to another area, so as the calf can be able to feed on fresh pastures. So the mobile calf pens, dear learner, these ones can easily be moved even after 2 days. Where you had placed it, you move it, and then of course you move together with the calf so that you get fresh pastures. Now, these mobile calf pens mean that because the calf is feeding on the pastures that are growing on the floor, on the ground, sorry, you realize that the floor of that calf pen is not covered. It is empty, or rather it is open. The floor is open, but the rest of the area is constructed, so that when you move with the calf, and then you look for fresh pastures, and you realize that the calf will be able to feed on fresh pastures. So these calf pens have an advantage. They have an advantage of there is no buildup of parasites and diseases. And because of that movement, because you move them almost every other day, so you move them and there's no buildup of parasites and diseases. Parasites like the ticks, you move them, you leave the pests where they had been left. Where they had spent the previous day. Maybe a disadvantage we can point out on this particular area of the mobile calf pens. You can talk of the idea of the being a bit laborious and tedious. Because every other day, the farmer must move, or rather the farmer must look for someone to move these calf pens, which is a bit laborious and tedious, and it consumes a lot of time compared to the to the permanent curve pens. So the permanent curve pens, we said maybe a disadvantage you can talk about is the fact that you require materials that are a bit expensive to construct, like the sand and the ballast and the cement to make the concrete ones. That one makes it a bit expensive. But on the other side, the permanent ones are a bit durable because they last in the farm for a very long time. So up to that point, Lana, I want to imagine that you now can be able to differentiate between a mobile calf pen and a permanent calf pen. So keep streaming and keep sending your SMSs on the number that is on your screen. Ask questions. We are going to look at those questions at the end of the lesson. Also visit your Facebook, visit the Facebook pages. It's KUTV. Twitter handles. Move there and send your feedback about the lesson. And also you can send your questions as well. So I hope you are enjoying the lesson and I hope you're learning, because you need to keep the learning even during this period. Remember, learning is a very continuous process, and that is why we are here to ensure that every other time you are activating your mind with learning, because it is very important. Yeah, so dear learner, after looking at the types of calf pens, the next objective of this lesson, and I think it is the one that is carrying the weight of the day, because I believe you have interacted with questions in your different schools, and you have realized that this is a very common question in the exams. It's a very common question in the exam, especially in that section C that we have said, carrying around almost 16 marks. That is a very high mark. And the challenge that we go through when we are marking some of the question, this question in most cases, it is the approach. The learners have the content, you have all the content, but presenting the answer is the challenge. And that is what I want us to tackle today, how to answer this question on the requirements of an ideal calf pen. Structural requirements. Structural requirements. Of an ideal calf pen. Now, structural requirements. What do we require? What do we look for when we are trying to construct a calf pen? A calf pen that is going to serve our animals effectively and efficiently. A calf pen that is going to boost growth. A calf pen that is going to boost maturity of these animals, because we want these animals to reach service age very fast. That is the ultimate goal of a farmer, to reach service age so that they can be served and they keep and they start reproducing early enough or at the right time. So, structural requirements of an ideal calf pen that will boost production in the farm. The first thing that we look at is that when you're constructing your calf pen, ensure that this calf pen has concrete walls. Concrete walls and floors. That is number one. An ideal, the best calf pen that is going to produce, or rather that is going to be of importance to your farm in terms of profit maximization. Ensure that the walls and the floors are concrete. If you can afford, ensure that you can make concrete walls and floors. And this is because these concrete walls and floors are easy to clean. This is to enhance cleaning or to make the calf pen easy to clean. We need to clean these calf pens more often, and I believe that you have a reason why even we clean our houses. I expect we have a reason as to why we clean our houses. Of course, it's because we don't want accumulation of parasites and diseases. When we do cleaning of these calf pens more often, we enhance the health of these animals because they do not suffer from diseases such as foot rot. Foot rot can be brought about by areas that are not clean. When there is accumulated dung and urine in the calf pen, that can lead to foot rot, according to the Form 3 syllabus that we did. Now, that is the first thing. Concrete walls. Ensure if you can, the walls are concrete and the floors are concrete. So, that is the first requirement. Number 2 requirement of an ideal calf pen is that you should ensure that this calf pen is dry. And how do you ensure that it is dry all the time? Put or place dry litter. Dry litter. You place dry litter on the floors. Why do we place dry litter on the floors of our calf pens? This ensures that the calf pen is dry and warm. Ultimately, you should be asking yourself, why do we need a dry and a warm calf pen? The reason why we need a dry and a warm calf pen is simply because warmth ensures that the animal is healthy. It does not suffer from cold conditions that can cause pneumonia. Damp conditions in the calf pen can cause pneumonia. So you are trying to get rid of the incidences of pneumonia in the calf pen, and that is why we put dry litter. So that is another requirement of a calf pen. So the third or number 3 requirement of a calf pen is that the calf pen should be large enough. Large, or you can talk of spacious. And how do we do this? Of course, we ensure that we construct a large calf pen for each calf. Why should it be spacious? Why do we need spacious houses? At the end of the day, I really like relating animals to human beings. Why do you think we require a spacious house? Why do we require a spacious house? Now, in the case of animals, or in the case of these calves, they require a space and a lot of space for exercise. Exercise is very crucial. Exercise and feeding. Exercise is very crucial for each and every living organism. And in the same case, just as human beings, we require a lot of space. Animals also require enough space for them to be able to exercise. And of course, an animal that is getting enough exercise means that it will grow healthier and faster, and it will reach service time early, and at the right time. And also, we require that enough space so that we can be able to accommodate the feeding and the watering equipment. That is the feed troughs and the water troughs. So, dear learner, I hope you are following. We need concrete walls. We need dry litter. We need large and spacious calf pen for the calf pen. Number 4 points. We are now halfway in terms of those points. There are 8 reasons why we need. The requirements of a good calf pen. We require an area that is well drained. The calf pen should be sited in an area that is well drained. Again, we don't want to allow damp conditions in the area. You are placing this calf pen on an area that is dry. It should be dry. that is well drained. There is no, the environment is not marshy, and therefore we need an area that is dry. And of course, a dry area, we are looking for a dry area or a drained area to control, again, foot rot. To control foot rot. Foot rot is a disease that is caused by bacterial infection. So that bacterial infection can be brought about by wet and damp conditions that you don't want to have in our calf pen. So that is the fourth point. A well-drained area. You should site your calf pen on a well-drained area. Not when it rains, just a slight rain, you realize that the place is getting so mushy. So we need a place that is well-drained in order to facilitate an environment that cannot harbor diseases like foot rot. Number 5th point is the idea of ventilation. Ventilation. Again, I want to pose a challenge to you. Have you ever sat in your house and thought why we need to open our windows more often or every other day? Why do we need fresh air into our rooms? So that is the same reason for the animals. Why do we need the animals' calf pens to be, or rather the calf pens to be well ventilated? So the idea of ventilation should come up, well ventilated. And well ventilated rooms, of course, are brought about by making sure that you put wire mesh. You make sure that there's a portion of the calf pen that has wire mesh. And of course, this one boosts the immunity. The ventilation boosts the immunity of the animals because there is free circulation of oxygen into the body of the calves. So a well ventilated calf pen is an ideal one for the growth and for the rearing of these animals. So we are at point number 5, and so far we said that this is an essay question that can earn you up to 16 marks, and for you to scoop those 2 marks, you need to give us the structural requirement, which in this case is the concrete walls, and you need to give us a reason why you need the concrete walls. I said we are going to highlight the mistakes that most of the students make when answering this question. Majority maybe just state, they just state concrete walls and floors and they proceed. You need to, this particular question requires 2 parts. There's the part on the concrete walls, and then you proceed and tell us why we need the concrete walls and floors. So you can see in each and every bit that I have highlighted, there is a reason. There is a reason behind dry litter. Why do we need dry litter? You can even go ahead as a good student and tell us the examples of dry litter that we can place on that particular calf pen. Why do we need a spacious room for exercise and feeding, and of course putting the feeding and watering equipment? Why do we need a drained area? Of course, to control diseases such as foot rot. Why do we require ventilation, and how do we ensure that our calf pens are ventilated? Of course, for the purposes of good health and proper ventilation even in the lungs of the calves. We also have another point, that is point number 6. We said that the points are 8 of them. Well explained, you get 16 marks. Point number 6, if by any chance you happen to have a cow that has given birth to 2, or rather to twins, those calf pens should not be placed in the same calf pen. Those calves should be housed singly. We call it single housing. This is the aspect of single housing, where you place the calves singly. You handle the calf individually. So that means as a farmer you will have to go an extra mile in terms of investment and in terms of you have to dig deep into a pocket, and you construct two separate calf pens, because we want every calf to be in its own calf pen. So that brings the aspect of single housing, and this single housing ensures that the calves do not lick each other. Calves do not lick. I'm talking of this leaking with the L-I. You know, leaks are many. There's the leaking of the water. So the leaking. I hope you understand what we mean by leaking. So the calves do not lick each other. And why don't we want calves to lick each other, dear Lana? Why don't we want calves to lick each other? Licking each other can lead to formation of hair balls in the rumen. And these hair balls are indigestible. They cannot be digested. And of course, a material that cannot be digested, of course, is harmful to anyone's life. So we need these calves to be housed singly, because they can lick each other since they are very young and tender. They can lick each other, and it might cause that leaking and hair balls, which are indigestible in the rumen. Now, up to that point, we are at point number 6, and I am encouraging you to keep forwarding your questions and your feedback on the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, at KUTV. And I'm also encouraging you to send also your SMSs and any sort of feedback to the numbers on your screen, that is at KUTV. You can send your feedback there, and you're going to respond to them at the end of the lesson. Yeah. So point number 7 involves the idea of solid walls. When you're constructing a calf pen, ensure that the walls are solid. The walls are solid, and especially at the point where there's a lot of strong wind coming from. So we need solid walls, especially at the sides of the very strong walls where the strong walls are coming from. And these solid walls prevent strong winds from entering the pens, This is because these strong winds can lead to a condition or a disease called pneumonia. Yeah, learners, even animals get pneumonia. So we need to prevent these animals from getting pneumonia by constructing solid walls. But I'm not saying that our calf pen should have solid walls on the 4 walls. You should ensure that the better part, and especially the side where the very strong winds are coming from, you put a solid wall to ensure that drought, there's that phenomenon we call drought, or that situation of drought with the DRA. Another thing we are a bit keen in agriculture are the spellings. You need to be keen on these spellings because they might be a problem. They can be a problem at some point. So drought is brought about by strong winds coming from one direction that can cause pneumonia in these livestock animals. So dear learner, be keen even when you go to exercise this skill of rearing calf pens. You can be able to follow all these parts, and especially the solid walls, because pneumonia easily kills even children. Pneumonia easily kills even calves. So the last point, but not the least, that we have of an ideal calf pen is the lighting aspect. Light. Or rather, you should talk of well lit. The calf pen should be well lit. Well lit. And I would like to pose again another question. A question on lighting. Why do we need our houses to be well lit? Why do we need light in our houses? Light in our houses ensures or makes it easy even for us to see. But in this particular case, light enhances synthesis of vitamin D, synthesis of vitamin D in these livestock animals. And again, I would like to pose a question that probably I'm expecting a response in our on the SMSs. What the deficiency, or the deficiency that is brought about by lack of enough vitamin D. Deficiency of vitamin D causes which disease, whether it to livestock or to human. So we need to know why we need to keep the calf pens lit for that purpose of synthesizing vitamin D. They require that synthesis. So why do we require that synthesis of vitamin D? So we require, I am expecting that response, and I'm looking forward to seeing the right one. The deficiency that is caused by, the deficiency of vitamin D causes which particular condition in livestock animals. So learners, those are the major points. Those are the major points in this bit, and I would like you to follow each one of them, and I am hoping that you have followed clearly. And I would like to challenge us that to take this particular question into consideration even as you do your revision. And I would also like to challenge you to even do during this period of the COVID-19, you can even try to construct a simple calf pen, trying to put all these factors into consideration. Even if you cannot come up with the concrete maybe, but I would prefer you try to see what you can do to ensure that the calf pen is easy to clean, ensure that the calf pen is dry and warm, of course by putting dry litter. So that is a challenge I'm trying to ask, because agriculture is very skillful and it is artistic. And when you want to learn these things very fast, it is good to keep practicing on these things. So try to construct. In fact, that is the assignment I would like to assign. If you can get a space to construct a calf pen, try to put all these things into consideration. And even when it comes to theory in your end of year exam, that is in the KCSE, you'll find it very easy to remember, because these points, you need to put them into practice. Well ventilated. How do we ensure that the calf pen is well ventilated? How do we ensure that it is well drained? How do we ensure that it is single housed if you have more than one calf? How do you ensure that the walls are solid? So how do you ensure that it is well lit? So that is what I would like to encourage each one of the agriculture students at the Form 4 level. Now that you have enough time, put that time into use, and it will help you somewhere, even in answering the theory questions. So we have several, looking at your responses, we have questions that are coming up. Winnie, what are the requirements of a calf pen? I think we have stated and explained them, requirements of a calf pen. That question, I know this question can be approached in, it can be asked in different questions, but these are the points. Those are the points, Winnie, the concrete, the dry litter, and of course you explain. I think that is what we have been explaining, and thank you for that question. Morning teacher, millennium, what about, what height should be the calf pen raised? A very good question, Millie. Millie, a calf pen should be raised if you are planning to do a calf pen that is raised, especially for the permanent raised ones. You should raise it to a height of between, that is from the ground, the posts. The 4 posts should be measuring a height of between 60 and 90 centimeters. 60 and 90 centimeters, that is the ideal height for a raised calf pen. The one that we said has slated floors. Yeah, thank you very much. That is a very good question. Another question here coming from Lewis. I am Lewis from Gituntu High School. What process followed when training a calf to take milk? This one is the artificial feeding that I think my colleague talked about the last time, but I wouldn't mind revisiting it. Revisiting the question of artificial feeding. Artificial feeding, the procedure. Yeah, so we are talking about the artificial feeding. That is feeding from a bucket. Training a calf to feed on a bucket. Artificial feeding. Maybe the cow that gave birth to that calf has died. Or maybe you have bought a calf that is very young and still needs to be given milk. How do you as a farmer feed that particular calf? That is what my friend here is asking. And I think the first point on that is, of course, to ensure that your hands are clean. You clean your hands and you make sure that they are well sterilized before you start handling the milk. The next thing is, of course, you clean the buckets that you want to use to feed the calf with. The third thing is you put clean milk. We talk of clean milk. You ensure that there is high level of cleanliness when you're dealing with these calves, because lack of cleanliness leads to scores. So we have said you clean your hands, clean hands. We have said you clean buckets, clean the bucket. Put clean milk. Put clean milk, of course, on the clean bucket. And then after you put clean milk and, of course, the hands are clean, the next thing is you put the index finger on the milk. Then you entice, or you bring the calf so that you can make it to drink. Actually, you put the index finger on the mouth, not on the milk. You put the index finger on the mouth. Of the calf. Then when you put, because young animals, including children, they have a tendency of, they really want to suckle and they want to eat the fingers and the hands of human beings. So you entice it with your finger that is clean, and then you lower the calf, because the finger is already in the mouth. You lower the hand into the milk. Lower the hand into the milk. So that is the procedure basically, and this is around 5 marks. It's a very common question as well. Let's look to more of your feedback. Here we have State Height Charm Samuel from Kiamaina Secondary. Thank you, Samuel, for your feedback. Please state the reason why calves should be housed in individual calf pens. I think we have mentioned that on the single housing, why we house calves on individual calf pens. It is to prevent leaking of the calves. We don't want them to leak each other because it will lead to formation of hair balls that are indigestible. And when there is indigestion, that means the animal is unhealthy. We have Naomi Mutheo. Thank you, teacher, for your lesson. You have understood better. Thank you very much, Naomi. Cows undergo menstruation. So we have I have Kate. I have a question. Kate from Nyeri, I have a question, but it is not related to the topic. Why do farmers prefer wearing white protective gears when harvesting honey? Of course, it is to repel the bees. The bees are afraid of light, and of course, you know, white garments reflect a lot of light. So that one can repel the bees. Let me see the questions. Thank you very much for your feedback. My name is Phyllis from Siaya. My question is, what are the management practices carried out on dairy bull calves? That one is that is Form 4. Form 3 work. But thank you for that. Phyllis, I would like to refer you to that Form 3 work, but I would give you some points. But of course, there are more management practices on dairy bull calves, and I think we were to tackle that, but time might not really allow. Management practices range from issues of rearing practices, parasite control. You need to control ectoparasites and endoparasites, like the worms and the ticks, using appropriate chemicals or appropriate methods that do not necessarily mean chemicals. We have vaccination of, that is, diseases. You control diseases through vaccination. You can castrate these bulls. You can identify them, identification. You can dehorn. Actually, dehorning is very good for the bulls because it makes them docile. So those are some of the points that I can give on that bit. We have a question from what is the maintenance of a calf pen? A very good question indeed, and this is very much within the topic. How do we maintain our calf pens? How do we maintain our calf pens? You have not said your name, but thank you for that question. Maintaining calf pens generally means you repair. The first thing is, of course, you repair the broken parts. You find that some animals sometimes get aggressive and they break some parts of the calf pen. You need to repair them. You need to clean regularly. You clean the calf pen regularly. You need to disinfect. Cleaning is very different from disinfecting. Disinfect the calf pens. Yeah, those are some of the maintenance practices that you can carry out on the calf pens. A lot of questions coming in. Thank you very much. We have why is calf pen painted white? Why is a calf pen painted white? From Kevin Laboret Boys High School. And I would like to say that I think it is the other way around. We don't paint. Maybe there's something you have omitted. A very good question indeed. Actually, we don't paint the calf pen white. We don't. We whitewash them. We don't paint them white, we whitewash. And the reason why we whitewash, we just wash the cement that has been made, that has made the walls and the floors. We don't paint them at all. Because the paint contain, the white paint or any paint contain lead. And lead, you know, it is a poisonous metal. So we don't paint them because of the issue of the lead that can cause poisoning to the cars. So thank you very much. Keep tweeting, keep sending your feedbacks through the various media platforms at KUTV, and thank you very much for watching. We have another question here on for which duration. Morning teacher, I am Christine from Kanyagi Girls. For which duration should a calf pen be housed? A calf pen can be housed for up to around even 6 months, depending on the farmer's preference and depending on the commercial activity that the farmer, it depends whether you are doing commercial with this calf or the dairy business, or you are doing subsistence. Some farmers can keep them even for up to 6 months, but others withdraw the calf pen from the pens even at around 4 months. Morning teacher, I'm Collins from St. Teresa, Itete High School. About artificial feeding, are there some outcomes that may be encountered? Are there some outcomes that may be encountered due to poor feeding? Artificial feeding, and I think you asking Christine. Oh no, it's Collins, eh? No, it's Christine. Yeah, Christine. I think you're asking about the disadvantages of artificial feeding, and of course, artificial feeding has some disadvantages. Disadvantages of artificial feeding, we talked about, or rather in your previous lesson where you're tackling that bit, you talked about one disadvantage being the calf might might not receive the right quantity of the milk. You can also talk about the idea of the buckets. If they are not properly cleaned and disinfected, they can come up with, they can cause the scores, which is a bacterial infection that attacks the calves. So I would like to end there, though I can see so many questions coming in. There are so many questions. I'm very happy that you are really participating. But I would like to wind up this lesson with concluding that whatever we have learned today, the key thing that you need to master are the types of calf pens, which we say there are two main types, the mobile and the permanent ones. And we also need to really go through these things and ensure that they are at your fingertips by the time you're doing your exam, because this particular question does not miss. It might miss on section B, but something must come up from this bit. That is what we have analyzed and realized, that this area is very much tested. So thank you very much for your feedback. I have been your teacher for today. I hope you have enjoyed the lesson. And I said I am teacher Karia Jennifer. I teach at Kahogoine, and I believe even my students are watching me. Thank you very much. We are going to meet next lesson. God bless.
continents. See breathtaking wildlife, stunning landscapes, and out of this world technology. Meet incredible scientists and learn fantastic facts. Explore, discover, be amazed. Be part of the next generation of African change makers. Be a part of Engine, Africa's #1 science discovery program. Yay!
We're learning every day. Engine leads the way.
If you think you can sell the hotel without me, you're dreaming, Geoffrey.
So Chantal, I'm assuming that you have a better idea.
Yes, we agreed to wait for the marriage of Nambi and Ziwa before making any decision.
Listen, I have had enough of waiting for that girl. I'm sending her away immediately to become a nun.
And what a saintly role model you are, Geoffrey, aren't you? Why is everyone forgetting that I'm the goddamn victim around here? Geoff left me.
Zahara, stop it this once. Your daughter is right. You cannot be seen to be the cause of this sleepover.
Can't believe Nambi's leaving. What am I going to do?
Bro, it's a good time to take a break.
But how could she do this to me, bro? It's not fair.
Just wait till Nambi gets back and then you'll see.
I can't do that. You have to do it. She's mad. I mean, just imagine if it was you.
Kipindi hewani ni mitindo ya kipwani, endapo ndio mwanzo unajiunga nami. Leo nitakuwa na mapishi ya kipwani, kutakuwa na mambo matamu sana.
Kwa leo tulikuwa tumepanga kutadia chakula ama upishi aina ya snacks inaitwa samosa.
Hata mwanzo ninyunyizie hii limao kwanza. Nisikie pia mimi nisikie ladha yake na utamu wake. Ninyunyize limao.
Shaka mtazamaji popote ulipo, unapokuwa ukitazama Safina Show
inang'oa nanga sasa hivi. Ungana nami Albanas Mwania, nahodha wa Safina Show, nikutoe ng'ambo ya pili hadi ufuoni. Safina Show, sauti ya matumaini.
Maelfu na maelfu ya wahamiaji wakiwa na watoto kutoka nchi za Amerika ya Kati wanaendelea kuwasili kwenye mpaka kati ya Marekani na Mexico.
But folks, I'm going. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ni habari kutoka pembe zote duniani.
Pepopa si vuguvugu. Pepopa ni idea.
Sazidi ananyonya, hanyonyi vizuri, anakuwa hayuko comfortable.
Jeshi la Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo linapambana na waasi wa ADF.
Kwa sasa wanatoa wito kwa mashirika, makampuni na vile vituo vya uchukuzi.
Mambo mengi yatakwenda kama yalivyopangwa.
Hapa ni kuna mmoja wa viongozi wa chama cha wavuvi katika eneo hili. Zaidi tunajaribu kuwapa chanjo ili ina boost ama inanyanyua kinga ya mwili, ndio inaenda kupelekea kupambana na virusi.
Ni duniani leo, Jumatatu mpaka Ijumaa, moja kwa moja kutoka VOA Swahili, Washington DC.
This program is rated GE. Content carried in here is suitable for general family viewing.
Bongo is a Swahili word and the meaning of it is brain. You use it to find
Nina.
How are you?
Hi, Koba. Hi, Baraka. I think I might be melting. Does it always get this hot in Kokotoa?
It always gets hot, but not usually this hot.
We're going to the post office to pick up letters from my friends at my old school. What are you two going to town for?
We're looking for avocados for Mama.
Can't you just get avocados around here?
None left. Not at the market or the shops. So we're trying in town, if the bus will ever get here.
Someday, I'm gonna be so rich that I'll never have to take the bus. I'll have a huge black car and drivers to take me everywhere. Just like Shiko.
Who's Shiko?
You don't know who Shiko is? He's the second richest man in the country, soon to be the first. He's so important that a car stays on, waiting for him wherever he goes, so that he can get in and drive off at any time. When he goes inside, they turn on the lights because he never takes off his shades. And they blast AC so that even in his signature black suit, he never breaks a sweat.
I heard he only drinks bottled water flown in from a paradise island.
Someday, I'm going to be as rich and respected as Chico.
Is he really that respected? Sounds like he has a lot of money. But what does he actually do to earn people's respect?
You will soon be able to see for yourself. Shiko is coming to Kokotoa, kids.
What? Let me see. It says that Shiko is searching for the perfect location for his state-of-the-art coal-fired power plant.
Cool.
Villages across the region will be competing for the honor of hosting Mr. Shiko's new business. And... oh, he's coming to Kokotoa this week. Yes! But wait, are we ready? I haven't seen anyone doing preparations. We've got to wow Shiko, so he'll build here. We need Shiko to come here. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that happens.
See you guys in a bit.
Hello, Auntie. We're looking for avocados.
Sorry, my boys. I haven't gotten any avocados in over a week.
What? No, we couldn't find any at the market either.
It's because of climate change. Not enough water for the avocados. What's climate? Fancy fruit and veg supply. How may I be of service? Sorry, I've still got no avocados, sir, and I don't know when.
Well, at least you got your letter, Nina. But us?
No avocados.
The fruit seller said it's because of climate change. I can't quite remember what climate change is, but if we have it in Kokotoa, then maybe Shiko won't want to come here.
But what is climate change? What's wrong, Nina?
My old school had to close down. It was flooded in a cyclone. My friend Isa says that some of our classmates even had to leave their homes. Oh, I can't believe it.
We're really sorry to hear that, Nina.
I wish there was something we could do from here to help.
Isa says that if I want to help, I should spread the word about climate change. It's an emergency.
Climate change is an emergency? Huh?
I think we need to learn more about it. Come on, guys. Let's go see if Kibana knows anything about this climate stuff.
Don't worry, Nina. We're going to do everything we can to help. What are you doing with all of this, Kibena?
I'm collecting fruit and vegetable scraps for the animals. The forest is getting so dry that they're running out of food. Tiny Tembo told me that the animals never waste food like we humans do. They use every last scrap, even the peels. So I'm collecting them from the neighbors to take to the forest. Can you help?
Of course, but we need you to help us too. We need to learn about climate change and the climate emergency.
So we can convince Shiko to come build his power plant in Kokotoa.
And so, we can help Nina's friends who lost their school in a flood.
Oh yeah, and that too. Sorry, Nina.
I think I know what causes climate change. Isn't it greenhouse gases? Remember, Koba, that time in Mzee Kigo's greenhouse? So what I remember is that when we burn fuel in a car or motorcycle, or burn charcoal for cooking, or even when we burn our trash, that burning releases carbon dioxide into the air, and carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas.
I'm starting to remember. The greenhouse gases traps heat on the earth, just like how Mzekigo's greenhouse traps in the heat from the sun for his plants. But this is happening to the whole world?
Yeah, the greenhouse gases trap the sun's heat and warm the earth up like a big blanket.
So that explains why it's getting so hot in Kokotoa.
And too dry to grow avocados.
We have to fix this. Climate changed Kokotoa.
I'm trying to, but I can't keep up.
Hey friend, it's good to see you. Tell us, what exactly are you doing to try and fix climate change?
Well, I'm doing what all plants do.
Taking carbon dioxide out of the air.
That's right, my girl. And I'm storing it in my parts as I grow.
Cool!
It's all part of the carbon cycle, but the cycle is unbalanced. You humans are releasing carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases into the atmosphere faster than we plants can pull it out. Don't you know, when we plants die, as long as no one comes along and moves us, our bodies slowly get broken down and buried into the ground by the forest. Over many, many years, the carbon from our bodies gets buried even deeper, and the pressure and heat in the earth pushes all the carbon together and squeezes everything else out. After about millions of years of that, well, the carbon from our bodies has turned into coal. It happens to other plants too. Some turn into the petroleum oil you burn in your cars and use it to make plastics. Some turn into natural gas that you burn for cooking. These are called fossil fuels.
Wow! I'd heard that word but never understood it. So when we dig up coal and oil and gas and burn them,
we're releasing the carbon from our buried ancestors, which was deep down and peacefully under the ground.
Oh!
People used to live in balance with nature, and we thrived together. But over the past 100 years, many countries relied on digging up and burning fossil fuels to create cheap power and grow quickly. And they cut down so many of us trees who do the hard work of taking the carbon back out of the air. These countries, which people like to call developed countries, created a way of living that is changing the climate everywhere.
But that's not fair. Those people did those things. And now we're having droughts in Kokotoa? No wonder Shika wants to build a coal-fired power plant. We should get the chance to use those fossil fuels just like those places did.
No, Koba. That will only make things worse.
But we didn't cause the problem, Nina.
Just because this problem started long before you were born doesn't mean that you can't do something to stop it. Now get moving along. I've got to keep pulling this carbon out of the air.
Thank you. You're right. We have to do something. Climate change could dry up the whole world if we don't do something about it.
But my friends say that climate change caused the cyclone that flooded their school and their homes. It's not making everything dry. It's making everything wet.
That's strange. Why is climate change causing one thing here in Kokotoa and something completely different there?
Because the climate is changing all over the world. But that's affecting the weather in different places in different ways.
Hi, Mama
Dege. Hi, kids. If you want to learn about climate change around the world, then it's lucky I'm around because we birds see far more than most. My friends, the plovers, were migrating through Australia and saw bushfires burning as far as the eye could see. But over on the other side of the world, my friends, the geese saw the ice of the Arctic melting and the polar bears losing their homes. The climate is changing all over the world, and that's causing all sorts of extreme weather. From floods and cyclones to boiling hot temperatures, we birds can see that these things are all connected. You humans fly all over the world now too in your jet planes, but you still forget that what each one of you does affects everyone else too.
Sounds a lot like Utu, Mamandegi.
That's exactly right. Utu means that each one of us needs to act in a way where we recognize the impact of our actions on others.
There's no way around it. We can't have this power plant.
Nina is right. There are plenty of other sources of energy. Kokotoa already gets plenty of electricity from the dam where my dad works. That produces power without burning anything.
And there are solar panels. We even made that wind turbine and pedal power generator, Koba. Why do we need coal?
It's not enough. Shiko wants to bring us more power. Think about it. We could have a TV in every room and enough extra refrigerators to store avocados even when there's a drought.
What is going on? What on earth are you all shouting and making such a fuss about?
Climate change!
Well, yes. I guess if there's something worth making a fuss about, then it's that. It's good to see that you're discussing this and having a debate. But serious global problems can only be solved through serious cooperation. So you need to respect each other's opinions and listen to each other. Let's respect each other.
But we don't agree. I can't just respect them and agree with them.
Respecting someone doesn't mean you have to agree with them or do what they say. You can listen and really hear what they say. Then, respectfully disagree.
Well, I respectfully disagree with what Shiko's trying to do.
Well, why don't you try and learn why he's doing it first? Come on, let's take a walk today for our lesson.
That must be Shiko. No, that's Shiko.
Ground is too uneven here, sir. We'll have to cut some of the forest to build where it's more flat, sir.
No problem. Find a good site and we can chop down some trees.
Greetings, Mr. Shiko, sir.
Terribly busy. Please, speak to my assistant.
Greeting, Mr. Shiko's assistant, ma'am.
Oh, I'm terribly, terribly busy. Please speak to my assistant.
It's a decent site, but we'll have to cut down the forest to clear the space for the power plant. Driver, let's go. Madam Teacher, are these your students? They should learn to do what they are told. Isn't it your job to teach these kids respect?
What you're talking about is obedience, sir, and that's different from respect. Respect goes two ways. They've listened to you and respectfully done what you asked, but now it's your turn to respect and listen to them.
Okay, I'm listening.
Coal-fired power plants are contributing to climate change, sir.
And cutting down the forest will only make it worse, sir.
We've got to respect the earth.
Oh, it is no disrespect, kids. It's just business. The power plant will make lots of money and bring tons of cheap power to the whole region. And there is nothing that people respect more than money and power. Well, I've listened to you. And now, time to go.
But that's
How
not
can
enough.
you just build the power plant here? It's causing droughts and floods.
Heard us.
On second thought, I don't think I'll select this village for my business. I want to go somewhere that they'll show me more respect.
That's what we thought.
We did it!
He's leaving.
All right, kids, let's go back to school.
There's gotta be a solution. There's gotta be another way. Hey, Mama, can I borrow your phone to do some research, please?
Okay, darling, but only for 30 minutes.
Hello, ma'am. I have a business proposition for Mr. Shiko.
actually did it.
We got him to leave and build his power plant somewhere else.
My baby was really angry. She said I was disrespectful and disobedient. She says she's so embarrassed that the neighbors will say she's raised a disrespectful granddaughter.
Well, I don't think that Chico's acting with respect at all. Are you still Chico's #1 fan now, Koba?
Actually, I realized that we didn't fix the problem by getting him to leave. He would just have gone and built his power plant somewhere else, and it would still release carbon emissions and impact the climate. It doesn't matter where the power plant is.
What have you done, Koba?
I convinced Chico to stay.
No!
Teacher Molota, can you go see Chico again? I think these guys might be surprised by what they find.
We have to finish our lessons, but I'll take you there after school.
We can plant them here.
Hundreds of millions of shilling.
Now that's good business.
How can you...
You'll make a good businessman someday, kid. We are right. We can plant trees here to cover the whole area and extend the forest. And we can get people from around the world to pay us to do it, since we'll be capturing the carbon they're releasing into the atmosphere and store it back in the ground. It's called... What is it called again?
Carbon credits.
The new forest will also provide more habitat for the animals. Thank you, Mr. Chico.
We may disagree with you about the reasons why you're planting trees, Mr. Chico, but we support your decision and respect you for it.
If we all agree that this is the right thing to do, let's start now. I want to do everything I can to fight climate change so my friends can have a better future, not one filled with floods and fear.
You say the problem is too big. You say there's nothing you can do. But if you do nothing, then what happens is on you. We've got to work together, everybody, everywhere. We have to change the way we live and start living with care. The climate's changing, so we have to change the way we live. We have to change the way we move. We have to change the way we dream. It's an emergency, so we are telling the world what to do. It's up to me and you. I'm gonna change.
Changing is hard, but isn't a choice. I say those of us who care must shout with one voice.
Hey, it's climate change. We have to do something to fix it today.
I'm going to fight climate change by planting trees. What will you do?
I'll write to politicians asking them to hold big companies accountable for the pollution they create. What will you do?
I'll collect bottles for recycling. Yeah, what will you do?
I'll conserve electricity, always turning off the lights and the TV. What will you do?
I'll tell everyone I know about the climate change emergency through songs. What will you do?
I'll write letters to businessmen with proposals on how going green is good for business. That's what I'll do.
The climate's changing, so we have to change the way we live. We have to change the way we move. We have to change the way we dream. It's an emergency, so we are telling the world what to do. It's up to me and you. I'm gonna change. It's an emergency. I'm gonna change. We are telling the world what to do. I'm gonna change and so must you.
I'm sorry, Kibena. I was wrong when I told you off before. You and your friends have done a wonderful, respectable thing here. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks, Bibi. I hope you know that I respect you more than anyone else in the world. I mean, what other Bibi would admit to her granddaughter when she made a mistake? That's respectable.
What are you writing, Nina?
Well, a letter to my friend Isa. I've told her, I'm sorry I can't bring you back to your school or your home, but my friends and I are doing our part now to stop the climate emergency. I planted a tree for you today. Love, Nina.
So, I guess Chico's not so bad after all.
Yeah, so you still want to be like him, Koba?
I still want to be a successful businessman, but I think I have a new idea of what success looks like. I realize that having big cars and lots of money isn't what earns you respect. It's the impact you make in the world and what you do to help other people.
Kids, we've learned from today's episode that just because you disagree with someone, it doesn't mean you have to disrespect them. This week in your Utu Clubs, talk about a time when you disagreed with someone respectfully.
Wiki iliyopita wakati natoka shule nilipanda daladala na nikakuta sita ambazo zina watu. Mimi na wenzangu tukakaa. Baada ya muda mfupi konda akaja na kutuambia kwamba wanafunzi hatupaswi kukaa. Si akasema kwamba tusimame tuwapishe watu wazima, na nikamwambia basi alina watu, basi wakija watu wazima tutasimama. Baada ya kumwambia hivyo alituelewa na akatuacha tukae.
Ila ungekuwa umekosa adabu wakati unatoa maelezo yako, sidhani kama angekuruhusu. Sidhani kwa kweli.
Now here is a challenge for you Utu Club members. Organize a debate around a topic of your choice. For example, education is better than money. There are going to be two teams. The team that agrees with the statement and the team that doesn't agree with the statement. Then, during the debate, observe how people respect others' opinions, whether they agree or disagree.
Nimeelewa wazo lako kuhusu elimu kuwa muhimu. Ila sasa, bila pesa utaendeshaje mfumo wa elimu? Pesa inahitajika kwa ajili ya kufanikisha mfumo huo uende sawa.
Naheshimu mawazo yako ila sikubaliani nayo, kwa sababu akili ikiwa tupu, sijui utafanya nini hiyo pesa. Yaani pesa inakuwa ina maana tena.
Great points! These kids are debating all their different views in a respectful way. Now it's your turn! You can register your Utu Club via SMS or WhatsApp to connect with Ubongo kids and receive discussion questions, activities, and more for your club. To register through SMS, text the word UTU to 20409. To register through WhatsApp, add this number to your contacts. +1234 900 1234 and then send the word Utu to our Ubongo chat. That's +1234 900 1234. Then select Utu from the menu that you receive. We can't wait to hear from you.
Utu, connecting all of us. Utu, you for me and me for you. Utu, I am because we are. Utu, I live for all of you. Utu is helping others. Utu is giving your time. Utu is caring for others. I. Utu is being grateful and having self-confidence. Utu is cooperating. I. Utu, connecting all of us. Utu, you for me and me for you. Utu, I am because we are. Utu, I live for all of you. Generosity, integrity, humility, responsibility, empathy, equality. I show Utu by being cooperative. I show Utu by maintaining peace.
I show Utu by being resilient.
I show Utu by being more patient.
I show Utu by being honest.
I show Utu by upholding equality. I show Utu by practicing empathy. Utu, connecting all of us. Utu, you for me and me for you. Utu, I am because
acrobatics every day, all the time. Just use your math. You use math when you measure, width and length, solving problems using mental strength. Use number operations like multiplication. The number you'll find is like magic from your mind. Math is a part of everyday life. Just add, subtract, divide, and multiply. Can you solve the problem? Did you get the answer? Just use your brain and you can do it, sir. Now, don't you rush it. Just take it slow. You must be careful. Don't you know? You use math for all things in life. When you eat ugali, you count your bites. In a parade, count the steps you take. Just listen when I rap. I'm using math. Calculate the distance when you drive your car, so you will know if you've gone far. Here's something else for you to count. Can you count the teeth in my mouth? We can measure width, length, and depth, and represent with X, Y, and Z. Math is used for everything. Just do the numbers in your head. Now try to add up all the spots on my neck. How many do you see? And I even use math to get leaves off the tree.
Mathematics, 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 how I love it. Mathematics, sing about the magic of mathematics. Mathematics, making number magic with mathematics. Mathematics, sing about the magic of mathematics. Mathematics,
You need to look for high quality friends.
I'm from Kingston, Jamaica, you know Portmore. That's my village.
Sina pesa saa hii, nimekuja kukopesa choo.
Kipindi hewani ni mitindo ya kipwani, endapo ndio mwanzo unajiunga nami. Leo nitakuwa na mapishi ya kipwani, kutakuwa na mambo matamu sana.
Kwa leo tulikuwa tumepanga tutaandalia chakula ama upishi aina ya snacks inaitwa samosa.
Limao. Acha mwanzo ninyunyizie hii limao kwanza. Nisikie pia mimi nisikie ladha yake na utamu wake. Ninyunyize limao. Okay.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audio-visual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
This program is rated 16. The content is restricted to only those above 16 years.